Whether, whether it's an upset in us and we say, well, yes, well, of course I have to go to work because I have to pay my bills. No, you don't have to go to work. You could just stay home. Maybe the consequences of staying home is you get fired, right? But maybe you don't like your job anyway. So I want to think about the things that I'm about to do as being contributions to life that are freely given. I want to stop thinking in terms of, I have to do this. I started thinking that way just a little bit ago. I found out we've got some issues. We got some issues at both houses right now. And so I was thinking, well, I'm getting ready. I'm gonna fly tonight. We're going on for a few days. We're going on a short trip. And so, I've got all this stuff like kind of scheduled for the day to make sure everything happens right. So then I get these calls. I go, oh, now I've got to go over to the house, see what's going on over there. Rather, the first thought in my mind is, now I got to go over there. But it shouldn't have been. Actually, and listen, I'm not beating myself up. I'm just saying I want to change my mindset to be, I want to go over there to be helpful. I want to see if I can be of service. I want to see if I can be of some kind of benefit, right? And now this is not the reason that I'm saying this is the path I want to be on. This is what I aspire to. Is not about appearing to be like a good guy. It is just that I know that as soon as I put my attention on how it is that I can be helpful, that's when I feel better. When I'm thinking about the list of problems, just surrounding this thing that happened this morning, thinking about, oh, well, then we got to do this, and we got to do that, and we got to do this, and all these complications and everything like that, as soon as I start to see those then become grievances and burdens and distractions, like we were talking about last week. All these things then become distractions rather than if I turn the whole thing around and say, how can I go and be of the best help I can to everyone concerned? Because when I do that, when I change my mind to the mindset of contributing to life, that this is going to be my contribution, whatever I can bring to the situation, that's what I want to contribute. And my experience is, every time I think about it that way, every time I approach whatever the task is in that way, I not only accomplish the task much easier. Sometimes you fail no matter what, but not just get the work done, not just get the job done, whatever it might be, but then there is an added sense of fulfillment that arises as a result of it. Otherwise, it's just one tedious thing after another. And everything begins to seem like all these things that I have to do are actually interfering with what I really want to do. Which is what? What do I really want to do? Sit on the couch and watch TV? Well, sometimes, right? Yeah. Or, whatever. Whatever what I really want to do might just be, I've got another track for the day. Yeah. But if I remember what we were talking about a few weeks back, is that I've established a purpose in my life. I've established a purpose, and I tell you and anybody else who it comes up with, that I have a purpose in life. I don't just trumpet it from the rooftops, but I am open about it. I have a purpose in life. And so why wouldn't it just automatically click in? And my mind would automatically just say, well, you already established a purpose, so your purpose is to be of service, so let's go. Let's go get it. Is that right? Because if that's my purpose, then I have decided for myself and said that that's what I really want to do. Not sit on the couch and watch TV. But that's what I really want to do, is whatever the situation is, however the moment unfolds, that what I want to do is be of service in some way. So, part of this whole idea of service is the idea of self-support. And this is, of course, the seventh tradition, and it's in the recovery programs. And the self-support idea is that I'm going to carry my own weight. I'm going to carry my own weight. So in pursuit of my purpose, hopefully this is what this is me getting it on track, right? If I get quiet for a second, I center on purpose, and then in pursuit of my purpose, I'm going to be self-supporting. In other words, I'm going to do the things that can be done by me. I'm going to do the things that are supposed to be done by me. I'm going to do the things that I have the capability, the talents to do. And then I am not going to do what is supposed to be done by someone else. Because part of service is to allow them to be self-supporting. I get this mixed up all the time. We talked about it before. I get it mixed up. So yes, so being of service means being helpful. But being helpful does not mean doing things for people that they should be doing for themselves. It stunts them. It really ultimately, not even ultimately, even in the short run, it's not helpful. It just causes more dependencies. It exacerbates bad situations. So I want to contribute. I want to contribute to life in general. I want to contribute in a positive way to the people around me. But most of all, I want to do it in a way that I am bringing whatever I have to bring to the situation. And then what that means, of course, is that I don't try to get other people to do what I should be doing myself. So I really have to work on this, because once I sit down on the couch, I am thinking all sort of different ways to get people to bring me stuff. I don't know. I can get up. I've got a lot of excuses for it too. Well, I'm in the middle of this. My laptop's on my lap. I'm working on something. The story on the TV is getting really good. All of these things are so silly, right? So anyway, I don't know. I'm getting better. I think I'm getting better. Actually, I think I got really good at it for some period of time, and then I regressed. That happens sometimes. I went backwards. So to contribute to life, man. So when we talk about this a lot of times in meetings, we think about this principle of self-support as like this is like the money thing, right? That this is where, and I'm going to talk about that for a second, because I think that is important. It's part of it, right? This is part of it. That if I think about, if I'm involved with any kind of organization, whatever it might be, I need to think about what is realistic as far as what kind of money I contribute to that organization. Could be the church, could be the groups that I go to, could be some other charity or some whatever it might be. It could be your political party, right? To think about what is my fair share, what should my contribution be. Now, something that I think gets lost in this is, now this is I'll just tell you, my tendency, I think the old settings were like either to not give anything, or just the bare minimum, or give too much. This all needs to be thought through. I need to think about what, if I it's really not spiritual for me to put my rent money in the basket if the landlord is waiting for it. And I say, oh, I gave, this is not principle. So I think about this, what is realistic? And one of the things that interferes with this, of course, first of all, grandiosity interferes because I want to be seen giving, right? I want to be seen to be a giver. And then on the other hand, greed interferes where I start thinking, oh, I'm not going to have enough. If I put that in there, I won't have enough. I'm going to come up short. So, I don't know. How do you figure it out? Well, here's the problem with I don't know. I shouldn't speak for you. But the problem for me is I have never been a good budgeter. I have never been a person who could put together a good budget. But actually, we know, we actually have all the information at our fingertips to figure out what our realistic contribution is to whatever organization that we are involved in. We know pretty much, we know how much is coming in and how much is going out. Anyway, I won't say anything more about that, but it's just, it is not a good idea to all of a sudden, either through guilt or whatever sense, to just start throwing more in the basket or wherever we're contributing than we can actually afford. So I'll tell you the story about it. I've told the story before, but I haven't told it for a long time. We went to, my son Kyle and I went to a concert in Chicago some years ago. It's probably been now maybe 10 years ago. And we parked, we wanted to stop at a couple of places along the way. There was a record store, and there was a couple of things we wanted to look at. So we parked quite a ways away from the venue. And we walked to the venue. And as we walked to the venue, there were a number of homeless people along the way. And they asked for money. And my habit has been, when somebody asks you for something, if you can give it, you give it. So the first person asked for money, and I got it in my pocket, and I gave them all the singles that I had in my pocket. And we moved on, and the next person asked, and I gave them a $5 bill. Gave a couple people $5. By the time we got to the venue, I was giving $20 bills to the people who were, and I mean, it just seemed like, man, today we're running the gauntlet here right now. And so I had one $20 bill left in my pocket, and Kyle saw me going for that $20 bill, and he jumped in front of me and said, no! And he gave what he had in his pocket to the person. Now, you go, what? Listen, there's all kinds of things that come to mind about this particular situation. I know when I first got clean that I was with some other people in recovery, and there was we were walking to the restaurant, and there was somebody who asked for some money, and I gave them the money, and then the person who I was walking to the restaurant with said, oh, you can't, they're just gonna go get high. Don't give them that money. And then I started thinking, and I said, whoa, I don't know, maybe, but I started to think, and then I thought maybe being in recovery, one of the things you had to not do was to give people money to get high on. I thought this may be part of it, so I had to think about this for a minute. And this is, I think, a kind of a standard thought system around this idea that people who are out there panhandling and asking for money, that what they're going to do with it is they're just going to go get high, or they're going to put it with somebody else's money that get, but eventually it's going to be just to go get high. And that then by doing that, that's not good service, because you're actually enabling, right? So I'm not going to answer. I'm not going to tell you I'm not going to give you one way or another what I think is right or wrong about this. It's just that I know what Jesus said was give it to them. It's pretty clear that what Jesus said about this is give it to them. Give them the shirt, right? Whatever. So the idea for me is just that that if somebody asks me for something and I have it, I can give it, then I give it. Again, if the only money in my pocket is my rent money, I don't give them my rent money, because you know why? Because that's not my money. That's the land. That's not my money, right? That's somebody else's money. So, oh, the other piece that goes with this is I do it the first time. I do it that way the first time. If somebody comes and asks me for something, I give it to them the first time. But if they come back again, then that time I give them something, but I give them something different. And I mean, I don't give them aggression or anything like that. But then the second time we have a talk, right? It's a different situation, because I actually don't want to just enable people. Sometimes, man, sometimes you come 6, 7 times, I just give it to you, right? I don't know what's wrong with me. Anyway, all right, so we give what we have, we give what we can afford. If we're always thinking about the common welfare, that means we're taking into account what our family needs are before we do these things. We're taking all of this kind of stuff into account. So that's the money piece of it. But there's so much more here to this idea of contribution, this idea of being self-supporting. What I was taught when I was in school at Unity is that we share our time, talent, and treasure. And somewhere in the course of this, someone said that whatever one of those three that you think you have the least of, that might be the one that you need to focus on giving more of. That there was some kind of action that happened that you can't quite explain logically, that if you free your mind up, that it just starts working. So time, to give time, this is probably really what is more precious in a life than the time that we have. Anybody else here start looking at the obituaries? I didn't look at the obituaries for years. I never even turned to that page. Now I'm looking at that page and I'm saying, oh, they're younger than me. It's weird. It's just like, this is like an old person's kind of a deal, right? So we've got a certain, every body dies. So in this body, we have a certain amount of time. We have a certain amount of time each day. We got a certain amount of time in our life. So it's precious to share that time, to give that time, to contribute that time. This is a big thing. And so part of that, contributing our time, means attention. So just because I'm hanging out with you doesn't mean that I'm giving you my attention. I could sit with you all day long and not hear half the words that you say. I'm talking about me, personally. If I am distracted, if I've got stuff going on, you be talking and I can just, you think, Gwyneth Paltrow did an Instagram this week, has a picture of her sitting there looking at somebody, and she said, I'm doing my best to have my friends think that I'm paying attention to what they're saying, but really I'm thinking about, and what she was thinking about starts with a D. I'm not going to say it in the service, but you can look it up.
Is it a 4-letter word?
Yes. Yes. And it went crazy on the internet. What I'm really thinking about is, but you know, it's funny, and her doing it like that was funny, but this is really a principle. What's going on here is really a principle. That we are sitting there acting like we're listening to what people are saying to us, and really we're thinking about something else. We're thinking about something self-centered. We're thinking about something, our own little circus is running around in our minds, right? So to contribute to what's going on around us means that we pay attention. We give that time. We share that time. And then when something comes up and people need some help and it's going to take some time out of the day, this is a difficult thing to do sometimes. I always say, and this is what Stephen Covey's wife said, she said, when there's a greater yes burning within, it's easy to say no. So if somebody calls me and they want me to contribute time to them doing something that interferes with the greater yes, it's actually my responsibility to say no. I should not be contributing my time to something where I could have spent the time doing something that's more helpful. But I should contribute the time rather than sit on the couch and watch television. I'm just using that as the go-to. This is just the default, right? So all these things have to be decided. And then it says talent. So we all have these various talents and abilities. And if anybody out there is sitting there thinking, I don't even know what my talents and abilities are, it's time for you to do an inventory. It's time for you to write it down. It's time for you, and here's how you write it down. What am I good at? What do I like to do? What are my accomplishments from the past? In other words, what have other people complimented me about? What are my hopes and dreams? 4 questions. You write down those 4 questions and you'll be able to see clearly in front of you what your talents and abilities are. They're right there. And doing those 4 questions might lead you into a whole new vocation, a whole new profession. But so these are the things, when we see clearly what our talents are, that's what we give. Now if somebody calls me up and tells me that they need help with their plumbing, I'm not going there. I know I'm not going to be helpful, right? So, but if somebody needs help with something that I have some talent in, then I've got to decide. Is this the highest priority of the day? The whole problem is, the only thing that interferes with all of this giving is this thing called lack. Lack. L-A-C-K. Lack. We think we live in a world of lack when we actually live in an abundant universe. And if we go around the world thinking about lack, thinking about what we don't have, thinking about what we might lose, thinking about if I do this, then I'm not going to be able to. If we are lack conscious, we will continue to get. Can you even get it? Does this even make sense? We will continue to get more lack. Is there such a thing as more lack? Yes, every day. Lack, lack, lack. I don't have enough. If we think about being residents, not just residents, heir to the kingdom, heir to the abundant universe, then we're able to contribute freely. Let things flow. And we will see that as we contribute freely, the universe contributes freely to us. That's simple.
Thank you, Greg.
Thought I was going to keep you here all day, didn't you? You could talk back.
What was the third one? It was time, talents, and what was
Treasure.
Treasure.
So that, you know what? I should have said something about that, because I was thinking about it that you think when you hear treasure, you're like, okay, that's money. But I had a teacher who had got a very old figurine of a bodhisattva when he was traveling. And he had a friend come into his office and saw the figurine, and this thing, it was old and it was valuable. And the guy just fell in love with it. My teacher gave it to him. So this is the thing. Now, it wasn't. He said it wasn't like automatic. He said he had a little bit of a conflict, a little bit of a struggle with it, right? So, and you can tell. It's not just. All right. So I'll just tell you. When we had the meeting over here at the plaza, I had a chair there that I really liked. I really liked that chair. And I just put it there, it was a comfortable chair, and I put it down there. And somebody came into the meeting, and they actually fell in love with the chair. And I could see that they really, I mean, they just like, it spoke, the chair spoke to them, right? So I gave her the chair. Now, if she would have just come in and been like, oh, this kind of, you know, but you could tell.
No.
You can tell, right? So I'm not just saying give away all your possessions, but I'm saying that if it really, if you see somebody that just like, oh my God, right? If you can.
Do that with your
It was
car.
taking up space in your life anyway.
Is that correct?
Huh?
I really like your car.
Yeah, no
That's
kidding.
nice.
You gotta go through the
Your wife.
I was thinking also about when we contribute more than our fair share, that we might feel like we have more of a say in how
Yes.
this organization goes. Or we might just treat others like they're less than. Like, I don't really need to be nice